I was staring at my student loan balance when my mother's email came through asking if they could move in. The number on the screen still blinking from the payment that had just cleared. Money gone before sunrise. Debt that had followed me longer than any relationship ever had. And there it was, her message written softly, politely. Like she hadn't spent years explaining why my sister's tuition was fully paid while I signed loan after loan alone because she had more potential, and in that moment I realized this wasn't just about space or timing or family helping family. This was about how they had always known exactly who they expected to absorb the cost, and how they never imagined I would finally say my one bedroom was full. Before this story starts, do me a favor, like the video and subscribe, because stories like this only survive when people choose to listen, and this one begins with a single sentence that changed everything. The email sat open while the kettle screamed, my inbox still showing the timestamp like an accusation, 6:12 a.m. The same minute my loan payment drained my account again, I stared at the number, then at my checking balance, then at the crack in the counter I kept meaning to fix. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Did you hear from Mom yet? As if this were a group project I'd forgotten to submit, I typed back slowly, yeah, then stopped, deleted it, because there was no version of this that fit inside one word. I called my mother instead. The line clicked, her voice warm and practiced. Sweetheart, we didn't want to worry you. I asked her where they were staying tonight. She hesitated just long enough to tell the truth without saying it. Well, that's why we're reaching out. My father's voice floated in the background, sharp, annoyed. Tell her we raised her better than this. My mother sighed into the phone. Your dad's just stressed. I looked around my apartment, the single chair, the folded futon, the silence, and asked, where would you even sleep? She laughed softly, the same laugh she used when she wanted something to sound smaller. People make it work, you always do. I reminded her the lease had my name only. One bedroom, one bathroom, one set of keys. She said, you're being difficult. Like difficulty was a personality flaw, like interest didn't compound every month while they slept in rooms I helped pay for somewhere else. My father took the phone then, his tone flat. Your sister would never hesitate. I swallowed, tasting copper, and said, she didn't have to. The word college hung between us like a bad smell. I brought it up gently, asked if they remembered the meeting with the counselor. The brochures spread out, my scholarship letter thin compared to my sister's packet. My mother said, this again, my father said. You graduated, didn't you? As if survival were proof of fairness, I said. I paid for it. He replied, that was your choice. My chest tightened, because I remembered being told it wasn't a choice, it was character building. Resilience, potential deferred for someone else. My sister called while I was still holding the phone, 3 lines blinking, her name lighting up like an alarm. I switched over. She sounded breathless. They said you said no. I told her what I actually said, that my place was full. She went quiet, then said, you could move stuff around. I asked her if she remembered the mattress on the floor when she visited last year. She said, that was temporary. Everything with them was temporary. My debt, my exhaustion, my job that never quite paid. Enough, always temporary, until it wasn't. I asked her if she knew they paid her tuition outright. She hesitated, then said, they helped you too. I laughed once, sharp, surprised myself. They helped with advice, I said, and confidence. She got defensive. They believed in me, I said. They believed I'd manage without help. There it was, the quiet split. 2 daughters, 2 stories told by the same parents, hers wrapped in praise, mine wrapped in expectation. She whispered, they said you had scholarships, and the room seemed to tilt. After we hung up, my phone buzzed again, a text from my mother this time. We're disappointed. Disappointment had always been their cleanest weapon. I sat on the edge of the bed, the springs creaking, did the math again out of habit. Years left, interest paid. The number climbing like it enjoyed the view. I thought about my sister's house, the spare room, the guest towels, the mortgage statement I once saw by accident. My parents' names right there, co-signed, cushioned. I thought about how full my place really was. That night my father left a voicemail, his voice steadier, colder. Family shows up, he said. Remember that? I replayed it twice. then deleted it, not out of anger, but because I needed the space. I cooked pasta, ate standing up, washed one plate. The sink dripping. Outside, a neighbor laughed with someone I couldn't see. My phone stayed face down. I imagined them packing boxes, deciding which furniture mattered, never once asking where I would put my life to make room for theirs. When I finally went to bed, the email still open on my laptop, cursor blinking like it wanted something more. I closed it without replying again, my answer already given, already echoing through the quiet. My one bedroom, my one chance to breathe. Full of debt, full of effort, full of everything I carried alone. Tomorrow I'd go to work, smile at my boss, check my balance, keep going. But tonight I lay there listening to the city hum, knowing the story had shifted, even if they refused to read it that way. The memory comes back while I'm brushing my teeth, foam on my chin, the mirror fogged, because that's how it always returns, ordinary moments hijacked by old math, sophomore year, kitchen table, the sun too bright through the blinds. My acceptance letter still warm from the printer, my mother smoothing it flat like she might iron out the numbers, my father already sitting, coffee black, jaw set, my sister bouncing on her heels, saying, "Did you see my packet?" as if we were unwrapping gifts instead of futures. The counselor's voice plays in my head, careful and practiced. "You're both very capable," she'd said, eyes flicking between us. My mother nodded until the word capable landed on me, then her smile tightened. My father leaned back and said, "She's resilient," pointing at me like it was a compliment with a bill attached. My sister's folder was thick, grants, housing, meal plan highlighted. Mine was thin, scholarships that required maintaining miracles, loans explained like an inconvenience, not a sentence. At home that night, my mother cooked my favorite, overcompensating already, the smell filling the house. She said, "This doesn't mean we love you less," which wasn't something I'd asked. My father cleared his throat, said, "Your sister just has more potential." Like potential was measurable, like it depreciated if divided. I asked what that meant. My sister froze mid-bite. My mother waved her hand, "Don't make this ugly," and suddenly, I was the one ruining dinner. I remember saying I could work, already planning shifts in my head, bookstore, cafe, anything open late. My father nodded approvingly. "That's the spirit," he said. My mother added, "You've always been independent." The words landed heavy. Independence as a reason to withhold. I asked if they'd help at all. My mother said, "We'll see how it goes," which turned out to mean watching from a distance while interest bloomed quietly in my name. Move-in day came fast. My sister cried happy tears. My parents loaded her car, boxes labeled neatly. My father handed her an envelope, thick. He whispered something that made her laugh. When it was my turn, my mother hugged me longer, pressed a 20 into my palm, said, "For gas," like I was visiting, not leaving. My sister hugged me too, whispered, "I'll pay you back someday," and I believed her because believing felt easier than asking why. The first bill arrived in October, email subject line cheerful. I sat on my dorm bed, called home. My mother said, "Didn't you expect this?" My father said, "Welcome to adulthood." My sister texted me a photo of her new desk, captioned, "Obsessed." I asked how classes were. She said, "Hard but exciting." I said mine were too. I didn't mention the night shifts, the way my hands shook counting change, the spreadsheet growing teeth. Holidays split us further. My sister talked about internships unpaid but prestigious. My parents nodded proudly. My father asked me if I'd thought about a second job. My mother said, "You're so good under pressure," like pressure was a talent, not a weight. I smiled until my face hurt. My sister squeezed my knee under the table. Silent apology. She still didn't know the full numbers. She thought we were climbing the same hill with different shoes. Years blurred. Graduation came. My sister debt-free, cap tossed high. My parents cried. I stood to the side, clapped hard, my own ceremony quieter, my loans already breathing down my neck. My mother hugged me, said, "See, you made it," my father added. "Told you you'd figure it out," and something in me shifted then, subtle, permanent, because figuring it out had cost me sleep, choices, softness, and they called that proof it was fair. The phone rang before I finished my coffee, my mother's name lighting up the screen like an obligation. I answered, because I always did. Her voice came in calm, rehearsed. "We're packing today," she said, tape ripping somewhere behind her, my father murmuring numbers. "I asked where they were going," she said. "We assumed we'd stay with you first." The word assumed pressed hard on my chest. I looked at the sink full of one mug, the quiet, the narrow hallway, and said carefully, "There isn't space." The silence that followed felt louder than shouting. She sighed, disappointed first, angry second. "People share couches," she said. "Families adjust." I reminded her my lease didn't allow long-term guests. She laughed softly, the same sound from childhood when rules bent for her convenience. "You always hide behind technicalities." My father took the phone. "This isn't how we raised you," he said. "I asked him where they stayed when my sister needed help," he said. "That was different," and refused to explain how. I tried to keep my voice steady, asked why they never asked her first. My mother jumped back in. "She has responsibilities." I repeated the word, tasting it, like a mortgage you helped pay. She went quiet, then said, "That's none of your business." Everything had always been my business when it required endurance. I told her I was still paying loans. She said, "Everyone has debt." Like mine wasn't shaped by their choices. My father muttered, "You're making excuses," and something brittle cracked open in me. My sister called while I was still holding the ache of it. Her voice rushed. "They're upset," she said, as if emotions were weather reports. I asked if they'd asked her. She hesitated, then admitted, "They didn't want to burden me." I laughed once, short and tired. Told her about the loans again, slower this time, numbers included, interest named. She whispered, "They said you had help." I asked who told her that. She said, "Mom," and the truth settled between us like dust. She started crying then, apologizing fast, overlapping words. "I didn't know, I swear, I thought you were okay." I believed her because ignorance had been curated carefully in this family. I told her I loved her, that this wasn't about choosing sides. She said, "They're scared," I said. So was I at 18, and neither of us spoke for a long moment, the kind of silence that rewrites old conversations. She finally said, "I can't take them in either," and I understood more than she knew. My mother texted after that, shorter messages now, sharper, "We sacrificed for you." I stared at the word sacrificed, remembered filling out loan forms alone, remembered my father saying pressure builds character. I typed, erased, typed again. Finally wrote, "I don't have space," she replied. "You'll regret this." Regret had always been framed as disobedience in our house. I turned my phone face down, my hands shaking, my apartment suddenly smaller, fuller, every corner occupied by things I carried quietly. That evening my father showed up outside unannounced, his truck idling. I watched from the window. Didn't open the door. He called, left a voicemail. "Open up," he said. "We need to talk like adults." Adulthood had always meant compliance. I listened to his footsteps leave, the engine pulling away, my chest tight, tears finally coming, not loud, just steady. Grief for the version of family that existed only when I was useful, exhaustion pooling behind my eyes. I went to bed early, the city humming through thin walls, my phone buzzing once more. A final message from my sister, "I'm proud of you." It surprised me how much that mattered, how it softened something raw. I stared at the ceiling, thought about all the nights I'd swallowed fear to make things work. Tomorrow would bring fallout, accusations, retellings where I was ungrateful, but tonight there was a strange stillness, a sense that something heavy had been set down, even if it bruised on the way out. The spreadsheet opened the way it always did, quietly, obedient, Rose waiting for me to admit what I usually avoided. I sat at the desk that doubled as my kitchen table, laptop balance beside a stack of unopened mail. I typed the balances again even though they hadn't changed overnight. Principal, interest, years remaining. The total felt unreal until I said it out loud to the empty room. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother asking if I'd reconsidered. I didn't answer. I highlighted the cells instead, watching the sum glow like a warning I'd been carrying for years. My sister called later, voice softer than usual. "I talked to them," she said. I asked what that meant. She hesitated, then admitted, "They said you're exaggerating." I laughed under my breath. The sound surprised me. I told her I could screen share the spreadsheet if she wanted. She went quiet, then said, "Send it." So I did. Screenshots, dates, interest rates, notes I'd left myself during panic nights. She stayed on the line while the images delivered. I heard her breathing change as the truth assembled itself piece by piece. "Why didn't they tell me?" she whispered, not accusing, just stunned. I said they didn't need to. Silence had done the job. She asked how long I'd been carrying it. I said since orientation week. When the first loan dispersed, she said, they paid my housing outright. Like she was confessing something criminal. I told her I knew. She asked how. I said receipts have a way of surfacing when you stop protecting other people's comfort. She cried then, real crying, the kind that bends sentences in half. My mother called while we were still connected, three-way lines colliding, her voice defensive immediately. "You're poisoning her against us." I said I sent numbers, nothing else. My father took the phone, said, "Money isn't the point." I asked him what the point was then. He said, "Family loyalty." My sister spoke up, shaky but clear. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" My mother snapped, "Because it would have distracted you," and something sharp passed through the line like glass. "You decided my future," my sister said, anger finally surfacing. My mother replied, "We invested where it made sense." The word invested echoed, "Cold and financial," I said, "and I financed the rest." My father accused me of resentment. I said resentment grows best in silence. The call unraveled fast after that. Overlapping voices, my mother crying, my father demanding respect, my sister asking questions that couldn't be unanswered anymore. Eventually the line dropped, leaving my apartment humming with unresolved electricity. Afterward, my sister texted me apologies stacked on apologies. She said she felt complicit. I told her complicity needs knowledge. She didn't have it. She asked if I hated our parents. I said emotions were more complicated than that, she said. "They're moving in with me," then corrected herself. "They're trying to." I asked what she wanted. She said, "Space." The same word I'd used, suddenly mirrored. She said, "I think they've always leaned on you to hold the weight," and hearing it reflected back loosens something tight. That night I pulled out old emails, financial aid notices, forwarded messages from my mother telling me to be grateful for what I'd earned. I noticed patterns I hadn't named before. Praise paired with withdrawal, encouragement paired with absence. My phone buzzed with another message from my father. "We're disappointed." I didn't reply. I archived it. The act felt small but deliberate, like moving furniture so you stop bruising your shins. I poured a glass of water, stood by the window, watched lights flick on across the building. Sleep came late, interrupted by memories of forms filled out alone, signatures missing where they'd promised to help. I thought about my sister rereading the numbers, recalculating her own story. I thought about how many times I'd swallowed discomfort to keep peace. Morning arrived without resolution, but something had shifted. The truth was out now, not shouted, not weaponized, just visible, and visibility changed the weight distribution. I got dressed for work, checked my balance again, and, for the first time, didn't feel like I was carrying it in secret. The morning they moved in with my sister, I was already at work, email open, pretending to read, my phone buzzing every few minutes with updates I didn't ask for. They're unloading boxes. Dad's in a mood. Mom keeps asking if you've called. I muted the thread and focused on my screen. The office smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner, familiar, safe. My boss asked if I was okay. I said, "Just family stuff," and she nodded like she understood more than I'd explained. My sister called on her lunch break, whispering from her car, "They're acting like this is temporary." I asked what she meant. She said, "They keep saying once you cool down." I pictured my parents sitting at her kitchen table, rewriting events in real time. I told her gently, "Don't let them narrate your life." She sighed, said, "I'm setting rules." I smiled at that, even though she couldn't see it. Rules were new for both of us, boundaries spoken out loud instead of implied and ignored. That evening my mother finally called again, voice softer now, calibrated. "We didn't expect this distance," she said. I asked what distance meant. She said, "Between us," I said, "between expectations and reality." She told me I was hurting them. I told her I was tired, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't touch. My father interrupted, demanded to know when I'd come around. I said, "When my life stops being treated like overflow." The line went quiet after that. Days passed, messages slowed, my apartment felt lighter, quieter. Even the debt seemed less suffocating now that it wasn't being denied. My sister texted photos of boxes stacked in her hallway, captions joking, but underneath I could read the strain. She asked if I'd come over soon. I said, "When it's calm." She understood, or tried to. She sent a heart emoji, small but sincere. I cooked real meals again, sat at my table instead of pacing. The space felt earned. One night my father left another voicemail, less anger, more confusion. "We thought you'd always manage," he said, and there it was, the whole philosophy in one sentence. I didn't delete it this time. I saved it, not to punish, just to remember. My mother texted later, "We miss you," I replied. "I'm still here." The distinction mattered. Presence without surrender, love without access. My phone stayed quiet after that, like everyone was recalculating. Weeks later my sister came by alone. We sat on the floor because I still hadn't bought a couch. She laughed about it, then grew serious. "They keep comparing," she said. I asked, "To me?" She nodded, embarrassed. I told her, "That's their habit, not our inheritance." She leaned her head on my shoulder, something we hadn't done since we were kids, said, "I see it now." I didn't ask what exactly. Seeing was enough. Work stabilized, payments continued, life moved forward in small, unspectacular ways. My parents stayed at my sister's longer than planned. Tension grew there too. I heard about it secondhand, filtered, softened. I didn't intervene, didn't rescue. That role was retired. My apartment remained full of quiet mornings, full of choices that belonged to me, full of a future shaped by effort rather than comparison. The word full finally felt like ownership. On a Sunday evening I sat by the window watching the city settle. My phone buzzed with a final message from my mother. "We hope one day you'll understand." I typed back slowly, "I do," and meant it. Understanding didn't require agreement anymore. I closed the window, turned off the light, lay down on my bed. The room held me just fine. One bedroom, one life, nothing extra, nothing owed, full in the only way that mattered. If you believe some truths deserve to be told out loud, like the video and subscribe now, then stay with me, because this story didn't start loud, it started personal.